about a certain specific anime that is named Girlfriend. Now, keep in mind, Girlfriend is an anime that came out a couple years ago, and it involves mainly two girlfriends. That is Saki, the main girlfriend of Nalia, the main guy in the character, and Miss Nagisa, who is the second girlfriend that actually asked Nalia out, and he eventually accepts. And he tries to convince Saki to let him two-time her. So the whole story of the anime is already messed up from the beginning. But while you watch the course of 2 seasons of the anime, you see that there's a whole bunch of different things that are going to be happening. We get involved to a girl named Rika, and Rika is over here trying to make sure she has to keep the secret. Eventually she finds out, but Nagisa eventually blackmails her, so she has to kind of keep secret. But then she eventually falls for Nalia, and she tries to she's a mentality hey, if I can get you to break up with them, then I can be with you. So her main goal is just to work hard enough, make Nalia fall in love with her, and then make sure that he can break up with the 2 girlfriends that he is in. But the only problem is that Nalia has willingly said out loud many, many times that he loves both of his girlfriends, and he would never cheat. He would never break up with them, and that he would prove that how much he loves both of them compared to rather being with her, because he never really was attracted to her up until the second season, I want to say. Because when the second season starts, now we get introduced to the character that was already kind of there. She was kind of like a supporting character, but we get introduced to the character that is Shino, who is actually Saki's best friend, and they actually had a interesting first time meeting, because Saki was really kind of the annoying friend, pushy, in your face, not really giving you personal space type of friend. And that eventually won over Shino, and then Shino actually started developing a crush once she saw that Nalia was kind of interested in Saki. And she kind of gave him the tips to hey, if you start doing this, maybe you can get with Saki. And it was around that time that Shino started falling in love or having a crush on Nalia, and that ultimately led up to the point where season 2, she's not happy that Nalia's been two-timing her best friend, and especially she's not happy with Nagisa, the other girl that's involved, and she kind of treats Nagisa like a piece of shit. I can't even lie about that. She treats Nagisa very, very badly, and Nagisa, I want to say this. Nagisa is probably the best character in the whole show. She has her own little issues, but she is probably the best character in that whole show. And all the characters in the show are messed up in a way. Because Saki is kind of a tsundere type. She's definitely a tsundere type of thing. She has her own good personality. She's good in school, but then she has her whole crush with Nalia that she's dealing with over the course of the season, which ultimately ends up leading to Shino confessing in front of them after she tries to put her feelings aside for her best friend. She spends a moment with Nalia naked on the beach after they get swept ashore because a bow that he gave her, she was about to throw it away into the ocean that she's had since he gave it to her as a I guess it was a gift. She was about to throw it into the ocean. It kind of flew away. She jumped into the ocean. Nalia's what are you doing? It's not really that important. She was it is important to me. Nalia ends up jumping in after her, saving her. They get washed up on the beach. Spend a moment together with Shino, kind of not wanting to get sick, so she gets naked. Nalia ends up carrying her back to the beach, and then Saki, after they've been wondering where they were gone, she ends up kissing Nalia for the first time in an emotional moment, and then that kind of all leads to Shino's alright, they're together now. She proved how much she loves Nalia, because she was questioning the whole time whether Saki really loved Nalia or not. But now she has proved it, so now she's kind of wanting to put her own feelings in the back of her mind, trying to push those feelings aside. And that ultimately leads up to the big confession where they go to the beach and Nalia's grabbing Shino's hands hey, what's wrong? You can say it. And then Saki's hey, we're best friends. You can tell me anything. And then Shino turns around, crying, holding the bow, and says, I've had a crush on Nalia, and I've had since we first met. And immediately you can see Saki's face. Saki's wait, you've had a crush on my boyfriend since you guys first met, and you never really told me this? But then Saki kind of comes to understanding of like Shino's feelings, but then she finds out that while they were on the island, Shino and Nalia ended up kissing before Nalia and Saki got their first kiss. So she kind of like berates Shino for like causing this, and then Nagisa, who's just in the background of all this, realizes that she's the only one that hasn't kissed Nalia, because at this moment Erica basically kissed Nalia in the first episode that they meet. So now everybody but Nagisa, one of his actual girlfriends, has kissed Nalia. And so this leads up to the moment where Saki's berating Shino, telling her to apologize, like trying to give Nagisa motivation for when they first kiss, and Nagisa is like toughing it up, and Nagisa is like, yeah, I want to kiss my boyfriend when it comes to the right moment. And then we head into the manga. In the manga, there's a lot of crazy moments in the manga, and I really would love to see this show get a couple more seasons, just so I can see what happens in the manga get put into like an anime version. Because there's moments where, like they're eating like chocolate that actually has alcohol in it, so they get drunk, and they're starting to strip. Like Naya ends up like wanting to prove like how much he can like love both of them. And he wants to prove like how much he can be a better person. So he actually wants to get number one on the final exams. And he says that if I make it to the final exams, I'm going to treat every single one of you out to a date. That includes Erica, that includes Shino, that includes Saki, and that includes Nagisa. And ultimately, he ends up doing that. He ends up getting number one on the test, tied with Shino at 500 on the perfect score. So he ends up taking out each and every one of them on a date. First up, I believe, was Nagisa. They ended up having a good date and then ended up going to Love Hotel. Second one was Shino. The same thing basically happened there. Third was Rika. And I feel like that one was the most developed in terms of like the actual date, and a lot of things happened on their date. And then final was Saki, and all the things ended up with them going to Love Hotel, which was kind of ironic. But then we get into a big moment where Saki is looking at it after having seen everything that's going on, and she says that she's finally come to terms and she doesn't feel like she can continue this two-timing, because ultimately she ends up feeling that she loves both Nagisa and Shino to the point where she wants to keep them in her life as her girlfriend, as her girlfriend's like a part of this relationship. So they end up having like a big moment together. Nagisa and Shino ended up telling her how they feel. They're willing to like end their crush on Nalia if Saki really wants it, and Saki doesn't really want it when it comes to that. So they all kind of come to a certain agreement where now, instead of it just being Nalia's girlfriend, they're kind of like Saki's girlfriends as well. So it's kind of like one big happy weird family going on around like that. And ultimately around this time, Shino actually becomes Nalia's third girlfriend, because Saki was like, hey, how do you feel about Shino? It's like, and Nalia's like, oh, I'm in love with her. And so then that leads to a big moment where Nalia asks Shino to be his girlfriend, and Shino is crying because she's been waiting for this for so long. She's had a crush on him for so long. Her main goal for helping him become number one on the test exam was to see if like he has room to like make her as the potential third girlfriend, and that ultimately happens. And ultimately, when it comes to like towards the end, we have a moment with Rika, and Rika is like, all right, we're coming to the end of the time where I had to show Nalia like, I had to prove to Nalia like I can make him fall in love with me, and Nalia just stays on this mindset that he just doesn't really have that in him, and he doesn't really have room for a fourth girlfriend. So he finally ultimately rejects Rika, and at the end of the day, and Rika says, hey, it's the last day, I'm still not done yet. So she goes on her final live stream and basically just confesses to the whole world that she loves Nalia. And the three girlfriends he ends up having ended up telling him to go get Rika, and that they were fine being, for him basically four-timing everyone. So the story ultimately ends up with Nalia having four girlfriends, Saki, Nagisa, Shino, and Rika, and ends up going to his parents and telling him that he's four-timing everyone. And the mom is like, I'm not surprised, and the father's kind of jealous. So overall, when it comes to like the whole story of girlfriend, it's a very weird anime but the way they develop each and every relationship and the way they develop each and every character, and we have certain moments that we get to see with each specific character, I very much like it when it comes to this. Now, a lot of people can say like the whole backstory of the whole anime. Yes, I do not agree with it because the whole backstory is based off of cheating. It's based off of two-timing, but the way they did the story when it comes to like how they did the cheating and like how Nayu continued to prove like how much he means to how much they mean to him in every single moment, even though he really didn't do anything when it came to the big moment where Saki would like decided like she can like continue on with the two-timing. It was still a very good story, and I gotta say this, I'd probably say this is probably gonna be a hot take, I don't really know, let me know in the comments down below, but I'd probably definitely say that Girlfriend is probably a very underrated romance anime, and even if you disagree with the whole backstory anime, the whole characters were just likable. Saki was likable at certain points. Nagisa, I feel like, was the best character in the whole show. Shino without her faults, like, she's probably a good character. And then Rika, the YouTuber that ended up, like becoming a part of her lives, even though she was annoying, we can see like she had fun moments as well. So I can see why people probably like her. But in terms of simple that's just what it is. Girlfriend is a very underrated but weird show.